Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome back to Silent Witness with your host, Christina.
Hello, hello.
And Erica. Hello. Hello. And we are on part 3 of Hailey Dunn today, right?
Yes.
All right. What you got for us?
So Hailey Dunn, 13-year-old girl who disappeared on December 27th, 2010
Okay.
from her home in Colorado City, Texas, which is West Texas. Hailey was last seen leaving her home to visit a friend's house, but never arrived.
Okay.
Last
And
week,
she was seen leaving the house? Sorry.
no, I don't know. I don't know if she was seen. This is what Sean said, that she left the house to go to her dad's and then was going to go to a friend's.
Okay. Well, we don't trust him, so.
No.
Okay.
Anyway.
There we go. I was like, wait, who saw her? That's all. That's where my brain went.
And then she never went to her dad's.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she was never seen again.
Right.
Okay.
So last week we discussed the days after, Hailey disappeared and the strange behavior of Sean Atkins, the boyfriend of Billy, Hailey's mom. We discussed his child porn fetish and was still
And bestiality.
never held accountable. So he's a perv. Disgusting.
Yeah, not arrested. That's what we were talking about last time.
Disgusting. Disgusting. The police, the DA, they all should be ashamed.
Wait, why the DA?
Well, DAs can bring charges too.
Did he know?
No, of course.
Like, is it report? What do you mean, of course?
Well,
I
because
don't
it's
know
all
what.
over the news, and it was. I mean,
Oh, it was in the news that all that
well,
stuff
I
was
mean, that's
found?
how. Yeah, that's how. I mean, I don't know if it was in the news, but that's how. I mean, it was all over my research.
Okay, so you're saying the DA knew and should have done something?
If he didn't know in that moment, he eventually knew.
Okay.
And I'm sure the statute of limitations isn't a few months.
I couldn't find it. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I looked
I
last time.
should have looked that up. But anyway.
Okay.
So the last thing we discussed was that a body was found and it ended up being a male and not Hailey. So please go listen to part 1 and part 2.
And part 2.
Yes, part 2.
Okay.
Just be ready to get mad. So we left off in 2012. A man's body was found. The remains near Sean's mother's house in Big Spring.
Okay.
And at that point, the police stated, at that point, they say they were investigating a homicide as far as Hailey's concerned. But, here we are after a year of the disappearance. And then the case went cold.
Okay.
So let's move ahead another year to March 16th, 2013.
Okay.
A man named Curtis Lloyd was searching for fossils near Lake J.B. Thomas, which is in southwest Snyder.
Okay.
And that's
Snyder.
in Scurry County.
Okay.
Mr. Lloyd did not find fossils, but instead he found a human skull, a tooth, and a femur bone. Additionally, some clothes were also found at the scene. The remains were sent to the University of North Texas for DNA identification.
Okay.
And in April 26th of 2013, police announced that the remains were that of Hailey Dunn.
Oh.
Cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head with an unknown object.
Oh.
Yep. So I want to remind you,
sucks.
Erica,
Yeah.
that of what Sean apparently told police during his interview portion of his polygraph.
All bull crap. Okay.
Well,
what?
no, it wasn't bullcrap.
Oh, this part. Okay.
Yeah, he explained where the body would be found, and that was in Scurry County. And in fact, that body was found in that county.
Wow, that's right. Okay.
Yep. So since the body was found in Scurry County, they now have jurisdiction over the investigation.
Good. Well, that's good.
Well, no.
No? Oh, they're not any better? Great.
Well, I
Fun.
don't know, but when cases are transferred to another jurisdiction,
Uh-huh.
And we've seen this in some of our other cases we talked about,
Mhm.
that all the files also were transferred. Tips would come in and they would also get sent over.
Sure.
But tips did come
You
in
hope.
about this case, but nothing substantial, nothing
Okay.
major.
Nothing actionable.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm,
Nothing helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now something of note, Hailey's remains were not immediately given back to the family. They were held on for some time by officials.
Is that normal?
They hoped, I think what it was, my guess is they hoped to do more forensic testing, and the breakthroughs in forensic testing are happening every day.
Sure.
We see stuff now going on with forensic testing we didn't see in 2010 and 2013. So, I think they held on to the remains to see if something would break and they could do more testing. I don't know of what, but this is just my guess why they held on to the remains. But in 2017, the remains were finally given back to Billie.
Wow, 4
Jean.
years.
Yeah.
Whew.
But
Wait, to Billie Jean?
Uh-huh.
Why her?
She's mom.
So what?
Well,
She's been
just saying.
the least helpful person on the planet.
According to Billie's Facebook at the time, she stated Hailey's journey is coming to an end, and after 6 years, she is coming home to be laid to rest. Now, by now, Billie had moved to Austin.
Mm-hmm. I have zero sympathy for this woman. I just can't.
I don't either.
Okay.
And this is where Hailey was buried, was in Austin. Mm-hmm. A private funeral was held. Of course, memorials and everything in Colorado City at her school and all that were held, and balloons released. But she moved in 2011 or 12, somewhere around in there. She moved, but she continued to defend Sean throughout all of this.
Oh my gosh!
Now by now, in 2017, the home they lived in Colorado City was, when she moved, it was left empty.
Okay.
And eventually, squatters took over. As happens.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, a memorial was set up, outside of the home for Hailey with flowers, stuffed animals. But in 2016, the home eventually was demolished.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now, Clint, Dad,
yes.
He's been pretty, devastated through this whole process, obviously. He felt the investigators were not keeping him informed of the investigation and its progress. He also felt, and with good reason, that the case had been mishandled.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
And so, but let me remind you, before leaving Colorado City and right after the disappearance, she and Sean not only repainted the inside of the home.
Oh, yeah.
But also they bought new furniture.
Oh, I didn't know that. They bought new furniture?
Mm-hmm. I believe this might not only prove the police fumbled in the beginning, but that Billie may have known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I have zero doubt that she knew.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
I'm
we're
with you.
going to get in more into this in a little bit.
Zero doubt.
Again, Billie Jean appeared on Nancy Grace to defend herself against these accusations that she knows what happened and helped cover for Sean.
Okay, yeah, but the PI left. Aren't people getting mad at her left and right? The class kids
Well, not
left.
only that, she lied to police and Sean was in the home.
He was in the house. Lady, you're full of crap.
She did profess her innocence multiple times in those interviews. But also in those interviews, an interesting thing I found was that Hailey's grandmother claimed to have tried to get custody of Hailey during the time, before she disappeared, stating that Hailey was afraid of Sean. This is what Grandma was saying. Billie denied knowing about this.
Oh, shit. I everything I hear about this woman makes me despise her even more. And she's one of those women who cling to the men over the children. That's disgusting. That is disgusting.
And how do you know you don't have child porn in your home?
109,000 images.
They should have arrested her for that too.
Yeah. It was in the house, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it was
on
hers.
Devices, on many
never
devices.
Know.
Yeah. So let's jump ahead.
Gross.
Let's jump ahead to 2020.
Okay.
Texas Rangers took
2020.
Yeah. Took another look at the case.
Okay.
And it obtained a warrant for DNA from Sean. I am unsure of those results or if anything was tested, but in June 2021, Sean was arrested in Howard County for Hailey's murder.
Look at that. Wait, when?
In 2021.
Okay.
He was
he was arrested.
He was transferred to Mitchell County Jail and held on a $2 million bond.
Ooh.
He
Okay.
was indicted by the grand jury a
Oh.
few months later in 2021 for murder.
Good job, grand jury. No.
No.
I'm like,
yeah.
why are you shaking your head? She was shaking her head at me. She's like,
Yeah,
no.
no.
Okay.
Of course, the family and the community were elated by the news of an arrest. Now the murder case will proceed slower because other crimes, and you're coming off COVID. So the
Mhm.
courts were backed up,
Mhm.
and every court was backed up. It just wasn't them. It was us. It was every
Everybody.
county
Yeah.
because of COVID. But there's also other crimes, and murders take a long time to go to trial.
Mm-hmm.
Long time.
It's annoying.
But again, so let the court motions and wrangling begin. That's what happens in the interim of an arrest and a trial.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a lot of pretrials in between.
Yeah.
So pretrial hearings were held and a trial date was set for April 2023.
Okay.
And the defense asked the case for a change of venue.
What?
Which, of course that's going to happen, meaning the case would need to be moved to another county.
No. What county was he arrested in?
Well, he was in Mitchell County because,
Okay.
but he wanted to change a venue,
Okay.
which is understandable. This is a small community.
Mhm.
The pretrial publicity for this case was nationwide.
I was going to say it's national, so I don't know what a change of venue is
well,
gonna do for
because
him.
most of the people in that county would have more specific knowledge as
I
opposed to
guess.
somebody in another county. Yeah, they're going to know about the case, but they're not going to know the people in the case. Like
Sure.
everybody's going to know the family. Everybody's going to know Sean.
Well, sounds like Sean already got a little bit of help in that county, so I'm interested that he wants to move.
Well, but because it was such a small county, the judge agreed and
Mhm.
moved the case to Nolan County, which is about 50 miles away.
Okay.
And we talked about this in the Eric Williams case. They
Mhm.
moved it from Kaufman County to Rockwall because everybody's gonna in that town. It's a small town. Everybody's gonna know Sean, Billy, Hailey, Clint.
Yeah.
A tiny town of 4,000. You're gonna know everybody.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Which actually makes me want you to have the trial there because people already know what they know.
Well, he's got a defense attorney that knows what he's doing, I guess.
Yeah.
And of course, defense requested 911 calls, which I did hear some of
Oh.
those. They were released.
Okay.
All the evidence that the DA had, all the discovery, autopsy.
Wait, what did the 911 calls have?
911 calls that I listened to had mostly it was Sean and Billie Jean calling on each other saying they're crazy and
the ones where they're so not related to Hailey missing. They were mostly just about.
I'm sure that the
he's
ones
crazy.
I'm sure that the one where they called the police to report Hailey missing
was
was
part of
also
it.
subpoenaed, but most of the ones I heard were just accusations fighting.
Right.
She's crazy on drugs. He's crazy on drugs and
Yeah.
threatening me, blah, blah, annoying. And,
Mhm.
you even hear the police in one of the calls saying, "Oh, not again." They
Jeez.
were familiar.
Ugh.
Also evidence such as soil analysis and cell phone records. And we're going to talk very specific about that in a minute.
Okay.
So jumping ahead to pretrial hearings, they continued, and the trial eventually, and this happens, this is normal. It got pushed back again. It's typical in murder trials, each side needing more time. So the trial is now set for August 2023.
Okay.
So again, that happens. It's normal in any murder trial.
Yeah. I just shake my head because it just shouldn't be so like, well, it happens.
But it does.
No, I know, but why?
It
That's why
does.
these people end up in prison for forever instead of just going straight to, it just drives me batshit crazy.
Well,
Just
that's-
go, just get it done.
This is the attorneys.
I know.
And again, you gotta also think we're coming off COVID.
No, yeah, I understand the backlog, but we're also like 3 years out now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there's still there's a backlog now.
Mm.
Not necessarily because of COVID, just because there's so many criminals. I mean, listen.
I think it's because there's so many attorneys filing motions instead of just freaking going to court and getting it over with.
Yeah.
Just go.
So I'm going to say something
Uh-oh.
coming up.
Okay.
And the case, because this case takes a very, very unexpected turn.
Okay.
Okay. So Sean has now been in jail 2 years.
Okay. Good.
And the charges were dismissed without prejudice.
What the crap?
And Sean was released from jail.
What?
I'm going to go into it because I had the copy of the motion. Forgot to bring it. Anyway. So
Charges were dismissed.
yes. So they were dismissed without prejudice, meaning they can be filed again.
Sure.
But so I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I read the motion. I had a copy of it. I forgot it.
That's okay.
That's okay. But this was a 6-page motion detailing the reasons.
Okay.
So
Wow.
now we can see why Clint is so frustrated.
Yes.
And you're about to be even more frustrated, especially with the police.
I was going to say it's going to go back to law enforcement.
Of
They
course.
jacked up somewhere. Okay, cool.
This case was very much a circumstantial case.
Right.
Okay. By definition, it's evidence that is not direct evidence,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to make an inference to reach the conclusion.
Sure.
Okay. For our listeners.
Pretty basic 2 + 2 math here. But
Yeah,
okay.
and many cases are convicted just on circumstantial.
Right.
There have been tons of them. Lacey Peterson, I don't know if you remember her.
I
That
do.
was a circumstantial case, a lot like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Where Scott is on death row in California for the murder of her and her unborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, reasons the case was dismissed per the DA. So let's start with soil analysis.
Okay.
Soil analysis was conducted by the state, and the boots of Sean were tested against the soil where Hailey's remains were found.
Okay.
The testing method used linked to the boots. The testing method they used linked the boots to the site where the remains were found.
Okay.
Okay. However, the FBI crime lab conducted a second test using a different method, more scientific and evidence based,
Okay.
that determined that the soil did not match. Okay. So, of course, a third look at the tests the FBI used and the state used sanctioned the FBI test because that's what the forensic science community used.
Sure.
So, therefore, the FBI,
So the boots are out.
the boots are out. The soil test is out.
And also, I mean, that's kind of a dumb one anyway, because you can't say you might match soil, but you can't match time.
No, but
I mean,
why would he need to be at that site? That's still
it's
circumstantial.
just like a lake. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know. That one's dumb anyway. Okay, so boots are gone.
I don't think so. But again, it's not the only thing.
But I
You
mean,
know?
that would be easy, I would think, to kick out in trial because you can
well,
just be
and
like,
that's why the state dismissed the case
Yeah.
is because the defense attorney can rip it up.
yeah, that's
Of course.
yeah.
He could say, "Oh, I went fishing there and
Mhm.
I didn't clean my boots." Of course, you're right.
And the boots are how many years old, and you can't say when. And there's just
Exactly, you're right. And the whole reason.
so that's one of them.
Yeah, that's just one of them. So let's look at the second reason that was
Okay.
listed in the motion. The remains of Hailey were sent to University of North Texas, and when skeletal remains are found, a forensic anthropologist analyzes the remains and completes DNA, obviously to identify and also cause of death.
Sure.
This not only it determines, the anthropologist determined that the cause of death was blunt force trauma,
Okay.
perimortem, meaning
Okay.
it was inflicted at or near the time
Around
of
death. Uh huh.
Mhm. So the injuries would have been catastrophic
Sure.
and would have resulted in a large amount of blood.
Sure.
It would be messy.
Yeah.
According to the motion filed, multiple searches were conducted by law enforcement of the home, and the state is not aware of any testing done in the house after Hailey disappeared.
Wait, what? They didn't find blood in the house. Is basically what they're getting at.
No, they didn't
What?
test anything.
The law enforcement didn't test anything.
Yes. According to the motion,
Mm.
multiple searches were conducted. And
Okay.
of course, if you remember from the others, a lot of stuff was taken,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not aware of any testing that was done. Either in the house,
Mm-hmm.
in the house where they couldn't take it, or the evidence taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, we already know they suck at their job, but I mean, she could have been killed anywhere. So, like, the blood not being found in the
I'm
house.
going to
or
get
not-
into that.
Okay. Okay.
No, she couldn't have been. And I'll explain the timeline here in a second because that's also part of the motion.
Oh my god.
She would have been killed in the house. I'll get into it.
She could have been killed out in the backyard.
They didn't do any testing. How do we know?
Well, that's what I'm.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. And that's you're right, because police.
But I'm just saying, like, did they see blood? Like, did they see any reason for testing? We don't even know if they
it doesn't, because blood can be tested,
Mhm.
whether it's luminol
seen or not. Yeah.
You don't
They didn't try any of
necessarily
that.
see it with the naked eye, there could be blood all over this wall and we don't see it. But if you luminol it,
It would show.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, police.
Okay. Yeah.
Here we go.
Y'all. Sean had y'all in his pocket.
Secondly, searches of the vehicle.
They're all in a child porn ring together.
And maybe they all were.
Just
I don't know.
saying.
Sean and let me start over. Searches
Sorry.
of the vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
of Sean's vehicle, and the site where the remains were found were conducted, and that evidence was never tested.
God bless. What did they do?
Now, did I remember I said law enforcement in this case was below subpar?
What? Like they
were
just
even
showed
complicit.
up.
They were even complicit. In my mind, they're complicit.
How?
They're just as guilty. You're protecting a child porn. You're not arresting him. You're not testing. Come on now.
You're still mad about the no arrest?
Well, wouldn't you be? If there was a child porn person running our streets, I'd be pissed. So let's jump to the next reason.
Okay.
So, cell records were
Mhm.
mentioned. I mentioned them last time.
Mm-hmm.
Cell records were analyzed by the FBI teams called CAST, Cellular Analysis Survey Team,
Okay.
CAST team. Records show that the day Hailey disappeared, Hailey's cell phone sent that message we talked about in the first episode.
Wait, she didn't have wasn't it her mom's?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
They sent a message, as I discussed, about 2:16 or so, and then she sent another text message at 2:27.
Mm-hmm.
During the time, Atkins' cell phone connected to a cell tower in Big Spring at 1:53 and again at 2:40. Also, Sean placed a call at 2:56 p.m. that day, the same day.
Okay.
And it connected to a cell tower along Interstate 20 east of Big Spring, but west of Colorado City. I'll stay
So
with me.
basically, they're saying she's sending messages from a phone that's still in Colorado City, and his phone is showing
It's
that he's
pinging
not.
elsewhere, right? So,
I mean, that's dumb.
so a
Any
minute
patience.
later,
Mhm.
a call came into Hailey's phone, which was connected to a tower in Colorado City. So
Mhm.
she, and this was again on December 27th, 2010.
Okay.
However, it isn't conclusive, but she may have been alive at that time.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the evening before,
Wait, it came in and was answered,
It
or
just-
the call just came in?
it just came in.
Okay.
It didn't say if it was.
It didn't give like how long.
It just
or
said it
whatever.
connected. It connected to a tower in Colorado City.
Mhm.
And the state theorized that Hailey may have been alive prior to 2:57 p.m. on the day she disappeared.
Okay.
However, it isn't conclusive, but she may have been alive. Now, the evening before, on December 26th, David spent the night with friends, came home December 27th around 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So this was about 2 hours later.
Mhm.
Okay. So we got 3 o'clock, and then he came home at 5, and that's when he saw Sean.
Okay.
Okay. And Hailey wasn't there.
Right.
Okay. So then at 6 p.m., Atkins left home to go pick Billy up from work.
Okay.
So this would mean that Sean was not alone again until the next morning. So let's look at this. If Hailey was alive when Sean came home,
Mm-hmm.
he was alone with her for only 2 hours, from 3 to 5.
Okay.
Okay. He would have had to have killed her, clean up the crime scene, hid her body in that time frame. The state believes this is not impossible, but it does present challenges given those issues. Okay. Meaning that the state would need clear evidence, direct evidence that he did this. Basically, a good defense attorney could discredit all of this. Okay, we can't. The state acknowledges it can be done. He
Mhm.
could have killed her, cleaned it up in those 2 hours, and taken the body to where they found her in Scurry County. Okay, could have done
Or he
this.
could have left
Hid
her
the
in
body,
the woods
right.
somewhere. I mean, there's so many.
Of course. And they're acknowledging that, yes, this
It
could have been
could be
done,
done.
but we're going to need more. Is basically what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
To conclude, this case had no direct witnesses or forensic evidence. directly linking Atkins to the murder.
Mhm.
Now, the state acknowledges and said this in the motion that Atkins is the main suspect, but they need additional investigation and testing of the evidence that was collected.
Mhm.
So, of course, just like you said, there's other theories. He could have killed her elsewhere and cleaned up later. He likely killed her in the home.
Okay, but why? Why do you keep saying that?
Because of the time, the 2 hours time frame. And it would have taken more time to drive somewhere, kill her. Of course, it could be anything. He could have killed her in the home, but look at the other circumstantial evidence. All of a sudden, within days, they're repainting the house.
Yeah, no, I get that, and the new furniture and all that. But I'm just saying, like, everybody keeps focusing on the house. He could have killed her in the car. He could have killed her in the backyard. He could have killed her down the road. There are so many other options.
But within the time frame, though, in
the car?
No. What I'm saying is, yes, of course, he could have killed her in the car and hit her body and then taken the body later to its resting place. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There was only a 2 hour frame there, regardless. There was only a 2 hour time limit there that he was alone. He could have been alone with Hailey. So again,
is there proof that Billie Jean was at work all that time?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they could verify. That's easy to verify.
I'm sure people get arrested for child porn possession as well. So
yeah, true.
I'm not sure of anything with these law enforcement.
And the place where she was found was only 25 minutes away from their home.
Yeah, but that's like an hour of driving and unloading, dropping her somewhere, and her not being found for years. I mean, there's a lot to it. I understand.
Think about a defense attorney.
frustrating.
Defense attorney can
I am
rip this
thinking
shit
it from,
apart. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm like, it could have been this, it could have been that,
Yeah.
it could have been this. I mean, there's so many angles to approach it, but it also seems so freaking wussy that, and it seems like they're lobbing it back to law enforcement.
Well,
we can't make this case. You guys do better. But clearly, those people aren't doing well in the beginning. So what do you expect? Why would you give it back to the people who fucked it up in the beginning?
Well, they're not necessarily giving it back. The DA can require the testing, and we don't know at this point. The DA can say, okay, because at this point, the evidence is in the DA's possession.
Okay.
If he's been indicted, the DA has everything.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, they can send off stuff for, testing. And so hopefully they're doing that. But you got to understand too, from a DA's point, you take this to trial as is and you lose.
Yeah, you're done.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. He's
He's out and he's free. At least there is absolutely no statute of limitations to murder.
right. I mean, I hope. Do we have further information? Is there more to it? That's it. This is the end of the story.
No.
I mean,
not quite. I mean, I got a little bit more. Yeah, but yeah, pretty much that's the end of the story.
do we know if they have ordered investigations?
We do not. And they're not going to tell us. They're going to, I hope that the Texas Rangers are involved, and I hope that other agencies are involved in doing the right thing and are testing, and that maybe you can't test the house
left
anymore.
to test. Yeah.
You can't, if they still have the car, maybe, but
then somebody's going to punch holes in that because look how long it's been now.
well, if it's been in custody, if the car's still in police custody as evidence, they can't really do anything about that because that's going to be well maintained if it's in evidence. Evidence has very strict,
You are so sweet with your confidence in how people do their
No,
job.
I'm not. I'm not at all in this case. At all in this case.
But you're saying that the car would be fine. Should be fine.
The car is in evidence. I don't know that it is or isn't. If it is, hopefully, what most law enforcement do is they do maintain evidence. Not always, though. Believe me, not always at all. But it's clear that this case has been flubbed.
I know. I thought about it 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. So the next episode, we're going to have Clint on, which is Hailey's dad. And he's going to discuss a bill that he has created called Hailey's Act, which focuses on police accountability. New rules that police should be held accountable for a botched investigation.
What?
They're not
Are they not?
No.
So, like, these police officers who knew he had
Some
child
of the
porn,
officers that were investigating this are now promoted.
Oh, good God. You should not have your job.
100%.
You couldn't arrest somebody with caught red-handed and you got promoted? Shame on you.
But
Dude.
but I really want everybody to listen to the next episode
Okay.
because I think this is an important law that
Mhm.
should be passed. And,
Yes.
and I'm
sure that people are like me. We all just assume that it exists, that they get in trouble. I mean,
And
hold on, back up. We know law enforcement doesn't get in trouble for.
no, that's the thing. And so,
Much.
but before we, have Clint on, I'm going to reach out to some of our local senators and, hopefully, they can take a look at this bill and sponsor it so it can get passed because you have to have the government sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
But, so
Jeez.
as a probation officer,
Yeah.
when someone on probation, which I've had multiple times somebody on my caseload commits murder while they're on my
While
caseload.
they're on probation.
And I'm telling you that the hammer comes down on me. What did I do wrong to make this person go commit murder?
What? That's
It's happened in
asinine.
every single case because I could kind of see because if you think about the J.C. Dugard case in California,
Okay.
the person was on, the guy, I can't remember his name, was on parole.
Okay.
And parole would come do home visits and they still didn't find J.C.
Oh.
She was
so
hidden
they're-
out in a shack in the backyard. So they're going to look for stuff like that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes. So, and I mean, I see it. It's not fun
Mm-hmm.
as someone who's been in that position.
Sure.
But your caseload is scrutinized, every inch of that case file, every word, everything.
So you're held to a higher accountability, and then these police officers.
Yeah,
have,
because
like,
I guarantee
none.
you, if I had flubbed on any of the cases where my people had murdered somebody on my
Mhm.
caseload, I would have been bye-bye.
Mm.
I'd have been in a lot of trouble.
And these Jack A's have been
Right. So that's
promoted.
hence the whole reason for the bill.
Okay.
I think that they
Hailey's
should be
Act.
held accountable for a
Yeah.
botched investigation.
Yeah.
So Clint will explain this bill and how you as listeners can help get this thing passed.
Okay.
I'm gonna beg everybody to listen and call their senators, their congressmen, local here in Texas, national. That'd be even great if we can get it national. But I don't
Mhm.
think Trump cares about crime.
What? That's a whole girl. don't.
He's a criminal. Come on now.
Anyway,
Oh, I hope you're not a Trumper.
I don't want to bring politics into our podcast.
You're 100% right. I was actually trying to just be funny.
Oh, I was like,
I was trying to be funny. I'm sorry, Trumpers. My son is one.
shoot. I was just thinking I had lost my thought.
Anyway, so hopefully next week we can get national. If we could get state, that would be great because I do think police need to be held accountable and they need to be kept in contact with the family. Even if they can't say anything to the family, at least be
Like a
respectful.
Couple weeks, because every check-in, like, how hard is that? Yeah, it's amazing to me that he's not mentioned more in the reports and the stories. Like, where's his Nancy Grace interview? Nobody talked to him.
I don't.
Like,
we
why?
can ask him, but I think he's just. Listen, I will say this: he has suffered,
That's what I mean. I feel like he was completely left out of the whole situation,
right? And
that was his daughter too.
Yeah, and I mean he's had heart attacks. His health has just gone downhill because of the stress and the pain.
Yeah.
This man has. I cannot even for a second imagine, but he will be on. Hopefully, we got it scheduled.
Next episode.
Next
Yep.
episode. But please follow us on social media. When his airs, I will repost it. The bill.
Okay.
Also, if you know something about the murder of 13-year-old Hailey Dunn, please, 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 because it's still unsolved. It's still a cold case. Contact 1-800-346-3243. You could submit a tip online at Texas Rangers Cold Case Unit. Just Google it. Someone knows something. You would hope Billy would come forward and say, okay, enough.
I've given up on that woman.
It's been all these years. It's been
14 years.
14. Listen, I'm not a math. Thank God for your math skills.
It has been 14 years.
Yeah, but someone knows something in this case. I don't know where Sean is today. He's stayed virtually out of the media. But whoever he's talked to, his friends, come on now, y'all know something. But let's not this case can be solved.
Can it though?
Yeah,
I feel like
it
it was
can.
so jacked up. There's no evidence to look for anymore. There's nothing to test.
Well, we don't know. We can't. Texas Rangers did step in.
They
and
for
I
sure
have faith
can't test the house. I know
No,
that.
they can't test the house. But
Ugh, so frustrating. I mean, hey, I got all the faith in the world in the Rangers.
if you've got a
Come in with
a
your-
witness that says, yeah, he told me, yes, that's hearsay, but it's something they could
Is it
build
actionable,
on.
something they
Yeah.
can work on.
But we can't let this guy go free. He needs to be in
Ugh.
prison. This child peeper. Well, I didn't want to say child. I didn't want to say child perp because then
Then he sounds 10.
he's a creeper, and I wish he would have been. He could have at least been convicted of that, just like in the OJ case. OJ got away with killing Nicole
Mm-hmm.
and her friend, but he still eventually went to prison. At least that's some solace.
For another crime.
It doesn't matter. He still went to prison.
Well, didn't her family win the civil case?
Yeah,
Civil
they
case?
didn't get shit.
No, I know. Well, anyway,
Yeah, but
off topic. Hailey Dunn.
yes,
Let's
very
get
off
this
topic.
one. Yeah. We might need to edit this one a lot.
Nah, it's all good.
No, we'll see. But yes, if you have anything like picking at your brain right now, just like got a little twinge in there because you remember something, tell somebody.
And please listen when we talk to Clint.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get this bill
Yeah,
passed.
what a common sense bill too. Like that, it should already exist. It's
100%.
gross that it doesn't.
And there has to be new rules for police, and they should
Yeah.
be held accountable, especially when
God,
they
yes.
screw up.
So
An investigation.
egregiously. This is just like
I told you.
that's malicious.
We
in
should have
the
put you
intent.
away from the window because now I can see you.
It
is.
chaps my hide.
It's awful.
Ugh. All right. So let's see something positive come out of this.
Yes. So
Let's
listen.
get that bill.
Follow us on all our social media. Silent
Woo!
Witness TX.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production. Elevate your experience with Grenco Science, the leaders in cutting-edge vaporizers. Whether you're at home or on the go, our sleek, powerful devices deliver smooth, consistent hits every time. Quality you can trust, innovation you can feel. Grenco Science, take your vapor game to the next level. Visit us at grencoscience.com.